Hello guys and welcome back to Let Me Teach You. After a busy period I decided to get back on this channel because I'd like to make a video about the characteristics of each branch of the Germanic family, in order to better understand, or at least to try to imagine, how the single languages split from Common Germanic, each acquiring specific features. So, are you ready? Let's start!
Do you remember? Hey, do you remember? In video number 2, we have already explained how we usually divide the Germanic languages into 3 groups: Eastern group, Northern group, and Western group.
Okay, no problem so far. This division helps us understand how close every single Germanic language is to the others. But of course, it's just a simplification, because languages don't just split like mercury droplets. Of course, each branch is characterized by traits that other languages don't have. But the truth is that we don't know with certainty how we came from the Common Germanic language to the modern Germanic languages. Most probably we'll never know. We only have theories. We had a complicated net of mutual influences that we're not able to fully reconstruct, with elements that became fashionable and started propagating from a language to the others, leaving traces that were stronger and stronger as you came closer to the irradiation center, making it impossible to draw clear borders between the single languages or the single branches. However, at the base of all the developments that led to today's Germanic languages, there are certainly a series of sudden separations that we can try to reconstruct. It means that some fellows one day saw a butterfly and said, Hey, let's catch that small, colorful flying thing. So they started running all together, and then they suddenly realized they were far away from the other groups and had started speaking another language. No, it was not exactly like this, but you understand what I mean.
The most widely accepted theory is that the early Germanic tribes lived in the area between southern Scandinavia and the North German plain, before some tribes decided to take a little trip to the southeast. Among these were Goths, Vandals, Burgundians, and some other tribes we don't know much about. In fact, we only have documents in Gothic and just a few words in Vandalic and Burgundian. But we can assume that the languages of these eastern tribes were already kind of close to one another, and they kept on influencing one another while migrating, in a stronger way than they did with the other languages of the Germanic family.
So, according to this theory, in the beginning we had on one side the eastern branch, on the other side the northwestern branch. Both groups came in contact with languages belonging to other families, undergoing this way external influences, so developing particular features that we don't find in the other group. We usually affirm that the Eastern languages are more archaic than the other two branches. But even in this case, this might be not completely true. We have to keep in mind first that 99% of the information that we have about the Eastern branch comes from Gothic, so only one language. We don't have a wide variety of data coming from other languages belonging to the same branch. And this doesn't make it possible to perform a thorough analysis of the Eastern branch. Second, the main document we have in the Gothic language, Ulfilas Bible, is the oldest full text in a Germanic language. It's many centuries older than, for example, the first Scandinavian texts or Old English texts. So we can also assume that the conservative behavior of this language is a result of the old age of this production.
But once we have clarified these important points, let's have a look at the typical features that distinguish the Eastern branch from Northwest Germanic. First, Germanic E becomes I in Gothic. In fact, we have Germanic etano, related to Latin edo, Old English etan, German essen, Old Norse eta, but Gothic etan. In this case, we can say that the other Germanic languages are more conservative than Gothic. But 2. Germanic E remains E in Gothic, while the other two branches have different developments. See Germanic Letano, Old English Latin, Old Saxon Latan, Old Swedish Slatan. No guys, I'm joking. German lassen, Old Norse lata, Bokmål la, but Gothic leten. Talking about this verb, we can introduce something about morphology. Gothic is the only language that kept reduplicating past forms. You know, the ones belonging to the 7th class we already talked about in video number 7. The same verb was let in Old English, let or letun in Old Saxon, leta, letir, leti in Old Norse, and the same today, let in English for all persons, or lees plus desinences in German. But Gothic has lelot for the first singular person or lelotum for the first plural person.
Let's say that the other languages, maybe because attested later, had already been affected by the intensive stress accent, thus losing the first one of the two reduplicating syllables. But that hadn't happened yet in Gothic, where the verbs of the 7th class still show a two-syllable root.
See also hetan, to call, which becomes hehet in the preterite form, or slepan, to sleep, which becomes seslep.
Remember, we had the same originally Indo-European phenomenon in Latin and Greek as well. Latin kano, meaning to sing, was kekini in the past form. The Greek verb luo was lelika in the perfect form, or in Sanskrit as well, but the problem is that I don't know the language, so I cannot give examples. I'd like to start learning this language, so if you have any suggestions of some good language course, please write it down in the comments below.
One more thing we still have in Gothic, and we almost completely lost in all other languages, is the presence of dual. In Gothic we have, for all verbs, a different form between first plural person and first dual person, and also between second plural person and second dual person. For example, from the verb beran, to bear, you have as a second plural person berith, which means you bear, but refer to several, more than two interlocutors, and then you have berats, second dual person, refer to only two people, you two bear. Even in this case, Gothic looks much more conservative than the other languages. Back to phonology, Gothic doesn't show any form of metaphony. That is, the root vowel doesn't change in the different persons of the declensions or between singular and plural. See foetus, foot, whose plural form is fotius, without changes in the root vowel, unlike English foot, feet, or Icelandic fótur, fætur.
As we said before, it might be that the lack of this mutation is due to the early time in which Ulfilas Bible was written. Most probably, metaphony appeared in the other Germanic languages only a few centuries later.
Another thing which clearly distinguishes the northwestern branch from the eastern one is that we find rhotacism only in the former. An originally sibilant sound was transformed, in some specific contexts, into vibrant r in the northwestern area. See Proto-Germanic hausiano, to hear, Old English hieren, Old Norse heira, but not in Gothic, where we have hosian. Gothic is the only language that clearly shows a synthetic passive form for most verbs. It means that they had desinences that could express the passive meaning, at least in the present tense, while other Germanic languages belonging to the northern or to the western group had already left this kind of inflection, in favor of the use of an auxiliary verb plus participle, which is the same thing that we have today in all surviving Germanic languages. See Gothic bera, I carry, versus berada, I am carried. As you see, in English the passive voice is expressed with the help of an auxiliary verb, to be, and the same happens in the other languages, werden in German, obli in Norwegian. Another important difference between, on one side, the northwestern group, and on the other side, the eastern one, is that Werner's law is present in the paradigms of many strong verbs of the former, but never on the latter. For example, we have still today a visible presence of the effects of this law on the alternation between the different forms of the German verb ziehen, to draw, that we have already seen in video number 9. On one side ziehen, ich ziehe, on the other side zog, gezogen. We don't have the same in the same verb in Gothic. Tuhan in the infinitive form, toch, tohum with the same consonant in the two forms first singular person and first plural person of the preterite.
Most experts think this is due to the effect of analogy. That is, Gothic speakers at some point decided to extend the same sound, usually the one used in the infinitive and present forms, to all other forms.
That's what happened as well in the transition from Old English to Middle English and Modern English. Chosen, to choose, was ikoren in the past participle. Then it became chosen, restoring the s sound to make it sound more regular and similar to the other forms.
So the theory that the Eastern branch and the Northwestern branch were the two proto-groups before the Northwestern languages split eventually into Northern languages and Western languages is the strongest theory due to the evidence shown with the examples mentioned before. But still, some linguists think there must have been a period when Eastern languages and Northern languages were part of the same group. So in this case, it's the Western languages that split first from the others. Again, this idea is not so widely supported as the other one. That's why we will not go too deep into detail.
But just to provide a couple of common elements between Eastern and Northern group, both have the so-called Verschärfung, that is Proto-Germanic geminated w, which means a w sound with double length, became gu, and the geminated y became gy in Gothic and gy in the Scandinavian languages. Furthermore, both branches got rid of the Proto-Germanic verb dona, that we still find in the Western branch. See English to do or German tun.
Just weak and unconvincing clues that are interpreted by most experts as individual developments of the single branches that just randomly reached similar outcomes. Well guys, I think in the next videos I'm going deeper into the single languages, or at least this is what I have in my mind, but I don't know. We will see. If you wanna know, just click on subscribe and on the bell icon as well. That's it for the moment. See you and behave yourselves.